All right, yeah. The, the more this goes along, the more I look like Dave Filoni. Lord. But today we're talking about Rob McGregor's second Indiana Jones prequel novel, Indiana Jones and the Dance of the Giants. So this takes place a few years after the Peril at Delphi. Indy's no longer a graduate student. He's actually teaching for the University of London, where he has a student named Deirdre Campbell who writes a term paper about the existence of Merlin. And because her mother is the head of Indy's department, Deirdre's like, do you want to go on an expedition to Scotland in order to prove her right? Meanwhile, a man named Adrian Powell, who's a member of parliament and also a weird cult leader, is going to use Stonehenge, specifically the Envolos at Stonehenge, for nefarious plans. Indy and Deirdre are caught up in the middle of this. Also, Peril at Delphi's kind of retconned in order to make Dance of the Giants work. And a bunch of weird things happen. So, in this book, we got our creepy crawly quota. With Indy receives a box of chocolates that is full of black widows. And this is right at the beginning of the book, and I'm like, ooh, nasty. Don't want that. I really like the Dance of the Giants. This is the biggest time gap so far in my reading of these Rob McGregor books. Indy's still suffering from what happened with Dorian and how she betrayed him and stuff. And he's still hurt from that, but he has a budding romance with Deirdre, and I don't know. It's interesting. It's so weird to think about now, because we live in this was written before Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, and we found out that Marion Ravenwood was the love of his life. The Marion Ravenwood thing has happened, and has happened, I think, between these two books, because I think that happened when he was a graduate student. At least that's where it would make sense. But there is no mention of it. To my knowledge, George Lucas said that you really couldn't mention Marion. And at this point, this is 1991. Yes, this is the same. These two books and the sequel, Indiana Jones and the Seven Veils, all came out in 1991 and were all written by Rob McGregor, which I think is wild. Because, like, at this point, the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles had not come out yet. I think the YA books were starting to come out, but there is no continuity between those. There's no continuity with the show at all. So that leads me to believe that George was... Well, we know that George, if there had been a season 3, he was going to introduce Marion and Abner, her father, and Belloc. Like, all those characters were going to show up in season 3 and 4, but none of those characters show up in the Chronicles, and Rob McGregor doesn't get to talk about them, which I think is a shame. But it just shows that George Lucas wasn't just obsessed with continuity in Star Wars. He's also obsessed with continuity in Indiana Jones, and that's something that people don't really talk about with these Indiana Jones books and comics, and even the video games. George Lucas wrote out an entire timeline for Indiana Jones. So, this is like really the stepping stone of Indiana Jones is becoming the adventurer. This book in particular really starts to feel like that. Because once we get into the Seven Veils, there is a change, and then in Genesis Deluge, I feel like we really finally step into Indiana Jones. But this second book feels more like Harrison Ford Indiana Jones than Sean Patrick Flannery young Indiana Jones, if that makes sense. He's in like a teaching role. He just seems more mature in this. I mean, he has his immature moments, with his womanizing and stuff. And that's something that he even has issues with in Last Crusade. So that's like something that's known to the character. It just feels like we're getting to that Harrison Ford Indiana Jones. Like, I can see Harrison Ford as Indiana Jones in this, if that makes sense to y'all. Another one, Jack Shannon's in this. There's more Jack Shannon in this. He kind of goes on the adventure after a while, and I really like Jack Shannon. He's one of my favorite Indiana Jones recurring side characters. And he and Indy are just really good pals. And Jack always lightens up the mood of things. Because the thing with these Rob McGregor books is they don't pull their punches when things get dark. And there's some nasty subject matter in this. Adrian Powell has kind of weird powers over Deidre, which is explained, kind of. Also, one thing I didn't mention from the Peril at Delphi is there is a continuity between this book, Peril at Delphi, and Last Crusade, the novelization, which I guess I have a little issue with this because it's an issue with Indiana Jones never got a break, even as a kid. Apparently, between episodes of Young Indiana Jones, I guess, he went on a spirit quest with a Native American shaman and discovered that the eagle is his spirit animal and his spirit guide, and is a bringer of good fortune. And the eagle shows up near the end of the Peril at Delphi. And then in this, it shows up with a certain character that I won't spoil, and it's really weird, but to me it works. But anyway, where would I rank Dance of the Giants? I think it's a bit better than Peril at Delphi, where Peril at Delphi felt like a transition. This feels more like a straight-up Indiana Jones adventure. It's weird. I like the weird stuff with Indiana Jones. I do enjoy Temple of Doom, that sort of thing. So I would rank this a 4.5 out of 5. I think it's well worth your time to check out. Anyway, join me next time as we review Indiana Jones and the Seven Veils.